Welcome to my presentation. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Naomi Ariting. Today, I'd like to discuss the classroom management and how to deal with different individuals. Of course, there are only suggestions and other language is possible. Even within this limited group of phrases, just choose a few you feel comfortable with and learn and use those. According to Cannon's model, teachers should be able to stop non-compliance and provide tasks that are highly structured. Witness, also described as having eyes in the back of your head, demonstrates to students that teachers know what is going on at all times and can intervene promptly and accurately when inappropriate behavior threatens to become disruptive. Witness can be broken down into 4 recommendations. First, occupy the entire room. Second, notice potential problems apparent in the classroom already. Third, use a series of graduated actions to deal with disruptive behavior. And lastly, forecast problems. According to Cannon, teachers must avoid what are known as timing errors and target errors. Overlapping occurs when a teacher must attend to more than one disruption in the classroom at a time. The ripple effect occurs when the teacher corrects a misbehavior in one student and this positively influences the behavior of nearby students. Smoothness and momentum refers to how well a teacher can run classroom activities without abandoning particular activities or making messy transitions. Overdwelling occurs when a teacher spends too much time nagging about a misbehavior that has already been corrected. Over-elaborating occurs when a teacher spends too much time explaining a task or topic. Fragmentation occurs when the teacher ineffectively splits up the task into group work or individual work when it could have easily been completed by the whole class. Connor explains that in order to maintain group focus, teachers must keep students on their toes when asking questions and hold students accountable for the work they complete. In order to determine which type of behavior the student is exhibiting, it is important for the teacher to understand the feelings he or she is personally experiencing as a result of the behavior. First, if the teacher is annoyed and bothered, the student is probably seeking attention. If the teacher is angry, the student is most likely vying for power with him or her. If the teacher is hurt, the child is usually seeking revenge. Lastly, if the teacher is sad, the child is probably exhibiting helplessness. Teachers often respond to misbehavior by reminding students of correct behavior. Fighting back, retaliating, or giving up, all methods that only make matters worse. Instead, the next step is to have students recognize the motivation for the behavior. Once the teacher is confident that the behavior is one of the 4 types, Rico suggests that the teacher confront the students to try and gauge if the student recognizes the motive. Keep in mind that the recognition reflex may not be immediate, as the student often needs to dwell on the question before acknowledging its validity. Criticism of this approach by Kohn argues that the line can often be thin between logical and contrived consequences, with only the tone of voice distinguishing one from the other. Furthermore, Kohn contends that the children do not seek a logical relationship between their misbehavior and the punishment. They simply dislike any punishment inflicted on them. Jones uses a system of behavior modification to identify undesired behavior and steer students in a positive direction. According to Jones, a teacher must pinpoint the problem behavior, pair that behavior with a positive behavior the teacher would rather see displayed. Track the number of times the negative behavior persists. Identify the reinforcers that are encouraging the behavior to persist, and intervene to change the causes that trigger the behavior or the contingencies that allow the behavior to persist. The classroom must be arranged so that the teacher can get to any student in the room in the fewest amount of steps without tripping over desks. Assigning seats as well as moving students closer in proximity to the front of the room will discourage disruptive behavior. Cantor urges teachers to have a discipline plan that clearly outlines the consequences for student behaviors. Having a preconceived, systematic plan permits a teacher to be consistent with behavioral expectations and to apply praises and consequences to all students in a fair and reliable manner. This plan should be explained to the students at the beginning of the year so they know exactly what to expect as the year continues. It should also be posted in a visible location. Additionally, it is suggested that the plan be shared with the school administration and parents. Clearly, no punishment should be, psychologically or physically, damaging to the students, such as ones that cause humiliation. Moreover, the grade level of the students must be taken into account when determining consequences. Cantor used to suggest writing a student's name on the chalkboard as a warning. However, some find that practice humiliating. As an alternative, Cantor suggests writing a student's name in the grade book or behavior log and simply informing the child that his name has been written inside. Teacher must keep in mind the following elements of the verbal messages: the tone of voice, eye contact, gestures, and the use of the student's name. After much criticism of his assertive approach, Cantor and his wife have gone to great lengths to promote the positive elements of assertive discipline. There are different types of models. There is the live model, an actual person demonstrating the behavior. There can also be a symbolic model, which can be a person or action portrayed in some other medium, such as television, videotape, or computer programs. Bandura mentions 4 conditions that are necessary before an individual can successfully model the behavior of someone else. First, attention. The person must first pay attention to the model. Second, retention. The observer must be able to remember the behavior that has been observed. One way of increasing this is using the technique of rehearsal. Third, motor reproduction. The third condition is the ability to replicate the behavior that the model has just demonstrated. This means that the observer has to be able to replicate the action, which could be a problem with a learner who is not ready developmentally to replicate the action. For example, little children have difficulty doing complex physical motion. The fourth, motivation. The final necessary ingredient for modeling to occur is motivation. Learners must want to demonstrate what they have learned. Remember that since these 4 conditions vary among individuals, different people will reproduce the same behavior differently. Many behaviors can be learned, at least partly, through modeling. Examples that can be cited are: students can watch parents read. Students can watch the demonstrations of mathematics problems, or seeing someone acting bravely in fearful situations. Aggression can be learned through models. Much research indicates that children become more aggressive when they observe aggressive or violent models. Moral thinking and moral behavior are influenced by observation and modeling. This includes moral judgment regarding right and wrong, which can in part develop through modeling. Group work is a constructivist epistemology which encourages students to work together to solve problems, discover new things, or discuss various points of view. Cooperative learning and collaborative learning is determined by the level of sophistication and the students in the group and who is more in control of the work being done. Knowledge is constructed, discovered, and transformed by students. Faculty create the conditions within which students can construct meaning from the material studied by processing it through existing cognitive structures and then retaining it in long-term memory, where it remains open to further processing and possible reconstruction. Second, students actively construct their own knowledge. Learning is conceived of as something a learner does, not something that is done to the learner. The cooperative model is very much teacher-centered, as the teacher is the one who sets the parameters of the activity, provides material, asks questions, and assigns the work. The teacher remains in control of the cooperative activities and monitors the progress of each group. Cooperative learning is defined by a set of processes which help people interact together in order to accomplish a specific goal or develop an end product which is usually content-specific. It is more directive than a collaborative system of governance and closely controlled by the teacher. While there are many mechanisms for group analysis and introspection, the fundamental approach is teacher-centered, whereas collaborative learning is more student-centered. Collaborative learning is not just an activity. It is a philosophy of interaction. Students who are members of the group must be held accountable for their work and must be able to interact and communicate well to convey ideas, delegate work, and fulfill all aspects of the assignment. The teacher acts as a facilitator and provides feedback, but the students are ultimately in charge of the process and how the project is completed. The collaborative model groups would assume almost total responsibility for answering the question. The students determine if they had enough information to answer the question. If not, they identify other sources, such as journals, books, videos, the internet, to name a few. The work of obtaining the extra source material would be distributed among the group members by the group members. The group would decide how many reasons they could identify. The collaborative teacher would not specify a number, but would assess the progress of each group and provide suggestions about each group's approach and the data generated. It might also occur to the students to list the reasons in order of priority. The teacher will be available for consultations and will facilitate the process by asking for frequent progress reports for the group. Facilitate group discussion. In the collaborative model, groups would assume almost total responsibility for answering the questions. The students determine if they had enough information to answer the question. If not, they identify other sources, such as journals, books, videos, the internet, to name a few. The work obtaining the extra source material will be distributed among the group members by the group members. The group will decide how many reasons they could identify. The collaborative teacher would not specify a number, but would assess the progress of each group and provide suggestions about each group's approach and the data generated. It might also occur to the students to list the reasons in order of priority. The teacher will be available for consultations and would facilitate the process by asking for frequent progress reports from the group. Facilitate group discussions about group dynamics, help with conflict resolutions, and etc. The final product is determined by each group after consultation with the teacher. The means of assessment of the group's performance would also be negotiated by each group with the teacher. Some groups might decide to analyze the UN, as the cooperative group was directed to do, or they might try to come up with a completely new organization. The successful teacher will deliver lessons with pace, clarity, energy and enthusiasm, positive attitude, high expectations, and imagination. The successful teacher will make lessons appealing, use props, personalize the teaching, be inventive and imaginative, make the learning active, and use all the senses. Hindrances. Several factors that can hinder a teacher's ability to teach effectively include cheating, inattention, Procrastination defines narcissism.